13. As he was leaving the temple, one of the disciples said, "Look, teacher, what a huge stones! What a beautiful building!" And Jesus replied, "You see this great building? Not one stone will be left upon another. It will all pass away." While sitting on the Mount of Olives facing the temple, he was questioned by Peter, James, John, and Andrew. "Tell us when all this will happen. What will be the sign?" Jesus answered, "Take care that no one mislead you. Many will come using my name, and many will be misled by them. When you hear the noise of the battle near at hand, and the news of battle far away, do not be alarmed. Such things are bound to happen, but the end is still to come." Let the church hear what the Spirit says to us today. Thanks be to God.
I got 3 phone calls this week asking, did you intend to not put a title on your homily? Well, I thought about putting a title, but sometimes, when you get to that age where if you use a long preamble to something, you forget what you started to say. So a couple of the titles that I thought about were way too long, and I didn't want to get off point. I was all kind of excited on Monday when I saw this post on Facebook. The 4-year-old girl who speaks such good theology in this gathering thought, her name is Dion. She knows what we've forgotten. She knows what you and I have learned to disbelieve. In her world, everyone can and does still fly. She is what and how we were before we began to disbelieve in ourselves. We stopped flying, and so did our ponies. This week was an especially poignant one for me. Terry's uncle, one of her uncles, died, and this week was the memorial service in Half Moon Bay, which is an incredible setting to live, an incredible setting to do a memorial off. We got off of the freeway somewhere near Santa Cruz and drove up 1. Incredible. There are parts of California that are just almost so beautiful, they are unbelievable. And the whole time I'm driving up, I'm mindful that there are other places in California that are not so pretty. There are places where people sleep under a tarp in the elements. There are places where people's homes are busted and broken. If you go over by one of the alternative schools, I shouldn't point because I'm never real sure which direction, but there's an alternative school in Paris. And just before you get to that school, there are several homes that have been started and then had to be abandoned because there was no money to finish them. There's this yin and yang, there's this good and difficult. And even so, there resides in each of us a piece, a spark of hope. It's that hope that makes it real for ponies to fly. This gospel passage, and others like it, are almost always talked about and understood to be about the end of time, about that great apocalyptic motion when Jesus will come in clouds and the clouds get rolled back and all of us rise and we go off to heaven. That place that Streeter poured gold and the big pearls of the ocean guard the doors. Faith has never, ever been about time. When the disciples are asking Jesus, would you tell us when this is all going to come about so we can be ready? The most important thing that Jesus says there is, do not be misled. Now, you know and I know that the Bible, not even the King James, is an exact script of what was said. That almost always Jesus, who was cryptic, was also a teacher. And so he wouldn't have stopped just at that, do not be misled. He would have reiterated to the disciples again and again and again. But somehow over the centuries and over the different languages, when we get scripture, we get bits and pieces, little snapshots into things. Jesus always was talking about right now. The word time is a misnomer. We imagine that it's concrete. One of the things that my friends in Fort Worth will say about Terry Trumley is that she believes she has 29 hours in every day. The rest of us know that we only have 24. You probably know people like that. Actually, as I look around the room, I know some of you are that way. You take 10 pounds and try to cram it into a 2-quart bag. You try to make room for a bazillion things going on in your life, and things get dropped. My very best friend of all time was a Springer named Mary. Mary went just about everywhere that I went. She wasn't particularly a well-behaved dog in that she didn't do tricks. If I would say, Mary, come, she would if she wanted to, and she wouldn't if she didn't want to. One time when my mom and dad were visiting, my dad had popped some popcorn. He said, hey, does this dog eat popcorn? Yeah, she loves popcorn. So he's sitting down with his bowl of popcorn, and my dog is sitting in front of him, and he flips a piece of popcorn up, and Mary looked at it and noticed where it fell on the floor. My dad did that again. And again, she looked at where the popcorn went, and finally she said, I thought you said she likes popcorn. She does. Normally she has her own bowl. She doesn't eat off the floor. Well, the thing about Mary, besides not doing any of those dog tricks that people imagine dogs want to do, was that she didn't deal with this concept of time. It didn't matter if I was gone from the house for 5 minutes or 5 days. When I came back, it was the same. She was like this incredible jumping. She could go 6 foot from a sit. And she'd be so excited. Time had no meaning to her because she loved me totally. She was absolutely loyal to me, except, of course, when it interfered with her particular idea of what was pleasure and joy. Mary had her own visitors at the church office because, of course, she went there. She had her own little corner in the office. She even got birthday cards from a couple of people. Mary was always in right now. She wasn't stuck in what did happen. As a matter of fact, no dog ever barks about somebody that went across their yard last week. Dogs bark now. Most of the creatures that God made besides us understand what now is. Jesus is speaking here to his disciples who are again looking in an entirely wrong direction, and he cautions them. They are focusing on the magnificence of a building. Not one stone is going to be left, it's going to all pass. Later they continue their conversation. They didn't get it after the first time or two. And Jesus says, take care. Don't let somebody mislead you. And at the very heart of what Jesus is saying, take care that no one mislead you. He's saying the building is not the thing that's important. Even beautiful buildings like this one. Jesus is once again pointing his followers to what is most important. And what is most important about our lives is timeless and forever. And it's not that the building that the disciples were in awe of wasn't pretty, or even that it served a magnificent sort of function. It just wasn't the main thing. What you and I can see and what we can reach out and touch almost is never the main thing. As we look at this passage that Karen read for us, we're looking at a recounting of earlier stages of believing, earlier stages of faith for the Jews. But we're also looking at earlier scenes from world history. There was a time when the world was flat, or at least that was the perception. Mountains held up the sky, and there were four corners. North never met south, and east never met west. That's what people thought. In that context, they did the best that they could do, but they were pretty limited. There was a time when Jewish believers thought that they had to spill the blood of goats and bulls on a table like this. That somehow would mend that separation between humanity and the divine. Jesus, of course, comes along and says, you don't have to do that. That's not the sacrifice that is asked for. You don't have to give up or give out anything. What you need to do to be happy is live the way that I'm living. Now, it wasn't about wearing a robe and walking around in sandals in the desert, but it was about understanding that each of us, all of us, worldwide, we are much more alike than we are different. Living the way that Jesus lived is about believing the truth that little children speak, that in my world all ponies can fly. Following Jesus is about those moments that are full, that fill your heart, that bring tears to your eyes and laughter to your voice. For those of you that have grandchildren, you know what I'm talking about. Those babies make you cry sometimes. It feels so good. For those of you that are raising children of your own, you know what I'm talking about. It's when you look at your daughter, when you look at your son, and they are doing these wonderful things, and they're doing it without even thinking about it. When you hear Nathan speak, when you watch Leona come and sing with her sisters, your heart just expands. That's what it's about. And those are the places. Those are the places and those are the moments of now that we can pass on to other people simply, every single day, very, very simply. Christianity has had to change over the centuries, as has the world. Science has had to change. All of a sudden, somebody discovered the world really isn't flat, it's round, but they were a heretic. Somebody talked about the notion of gravity, but they were a heretic, and the Christian church booted them out. They didn't get to take communion because they thought things that weren't true. Artists who started off the era called Impressionism, those artists were called heretics, they were called satanic, they were called evil. When women asked for the right to vote, when in this country black people ask for the right to be free. And even today, when people who aren't European white, when you ask for your rightful place, justice still means just us. Just us who are white European. That's wrong. It is just wrong. How do I get all of that from some apocalyptic piece? Because Jesus was talking about right now. You might have noticed that even before Halloween masks and Halloween candy was taken off of the shelves at local stores, Christmas decorations are already showing up. And to be fair, Hanukkah wrapping paper was showing up. People are already moving past one to another. And we miss today. We miss now. I don't know what this time of worship is for you every week, but what I hope it is for you every week at least for a few minutes, it is a place where you don't have to be anybody else. You don't have to do anything else. I hope that it is a place where you, for just a few moments, can stop, think, feel, and understand that every bit of who you are in this room is not just welcomed, but affirmed. Now, in this minute. We give one another all sorts of gifts, birthdays, anniversary, Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day. I even get presents now and then on St. Patrick's Day, St. David's Day, Robert the Bruce Day, third Sunday in the month day. And every time that I do, particularly when it comes as a surprise, I think about this program. It's an English TV pro. It's been off the air for a while. It's called Bread. And it featured a family, an extended kind of family, living in what you and I would call a duplex. One side is mother, father, and two teenagers that are both sitting there in what we would call junior college. Next door is the grandfather. And periodically the grandfather asks one of the teens or the daughter, or the husband or the wife, he asks one of them, come and have a meal with me tonight, this week, sometime, anytime. Well, they're always busy, but when they're busy, they feel guilty, so they wrap them a present and drop it off as they're going off to do something else. And in one of the episodes, the old man sort of has a little hissy fit. I don't want your presents. I want your presence. I don't want a gift. I just want you to spend some time with me. And so while we look at moving towards, next week is the last Sunday of the church year. After that, Advent. After Advent, the year goes. But as we start to do that, as we start to make that shift, if you're one of those people that thinks up New Year's resolutions, one of the things to consider is how you spend your time. Who are you present for during the week? And how important is that for them? Yesterday at the memorial service in Half Moon Bay, the speaker, who was arrogant and obnoxious, and I would have fired him on the spot, nonetheless had this one line that will resonate with me for a very long time. In describing Terry's uncle, he said, he wasn't so much about success as he was about significance. The church has been an incredible success here. And it's flopped. And it's succeeded. We have good times, we have outrageously difficult times, and we have those in between times. That's the nature of church, because that's the nature of humanity. But I would venture to say that over the 100+ years that this congregation has been here, that there's been a lot of significance taking place. Partly because of the places where you go and the things that you do. Do you remember one time, Candy, telling me that you weren't a mentor? And I had to correct you. Because you influence people's lives. You're one of the most consistently smiling people in this congregation. Do you remember one time Karen telling me that all you would do is just sort of disappear in the kitchen because that's where you belong? I'm still going to get you into this pulpit a time or two. You're significant. You're significant in a lot of ways. And since you're frowning at me, Joanne, I won't front you off, and I'll stop right there. But I can say the same of you, Lord. I most certainly say the same of you, Gwen. And you, John, every single one of you are significant. You can fly. Your time is important to somebody. Find somebody this week to spend a little bit of that time with without restraint. On Tuesday, we're going to try this new walking thing about 10 o'clock. The people whose idea it was aren't here today, but that's okay. About 10 o'clock, I'm going to start walking up Nuevo Road. If you're not doing anything, come go for a walk with me. There's still coffee on Wednesday. There's still things that need to happen. There's still people who need to hear what you know and feel how you care. With every one of the plates of food that go out of that kitchen next week, it's much more than green beans and corn. It's much more than turkey and stuffing and cranberries. It's a piece of hope that goes to houses, places where most of us probably wouldn't be going. But it's a signal to somebody that they still matter. There's still hope for the world, even after the tragedies that just roll off the tape in the evening news. So here are the words again of a little girl named Dion Carrillo, who lives in California City, up near Boron. Her mother's name is Casey, her sister's name is Lakota. Her great-grandmother's name is Nora Bartleson, and I'm her favorite great-aunt. But whether I knew this little girl or not, I believe that what she said is important for us to hear. In my world, everybody flies. God bless us. In those boxes, in the hours that some of you spent wrapping those, especially those with the hinges, the hours that you spent are investments that will pay off. It is unlikely that we will see the children, but you know what kids look like when they open boxes. Let it be that today for you, everybody flies. Thanks for listening. Thank you for being here.